Welcome FP&M to our first virtual all-staff town hall. We currently have over about 250 people in the room, so it's a large FP&M gathering. I'm Alicia Meyer with the Human Resources team, and I must say, I wish we were doing this in person, but it is wonderful to gather, even if it is virtually. I will be moderating our panel of presenters today. This event is focused on sharing important information on topics that would normally each have their own meeting. Operational and financial updates with Alan Fish, the Engagement, Inclusion, and Diversity Survey update with Dara Ward, our annual recognition awards, and a health and safety update with Chris Strang, our new ABC of Environmental Health and Safety. So deeper dives are being planned, and we'll be scheduling those in the next few months. Thank you to those of you that submitted questions in advance. We know you have many questions and hope that this meeting will help to answer some. Our plan is to continue to hold sessions like these with more interactivity in the future. Look for a recording of this video and a link to submit additional questions in this Friday's employee newsletter. And we will also have a translated version of the meeting available soon. And now I am going to hand it over to Alan Fish, our interim ABC. Thank you very much. Alan?
Thanks, Alicia. What a year we've had, folks. We started off the first couple of months in a normal mode, and then the COVID pandemic overtook us. And then the whole economy took these giant shots, and 30 million people have lost their jobs. And then the death of George Floyd and the incredible uprising around racial justice that has been so long overdue also takes over the country. And then of course you throw in a presidential election year and you really have a giant stew of issues to sort out. In the midst of all this, we have a campus to run, and we have to think about both that responsibility and the context that we're all trying to do that in. So I'm very appreciative of the incredible effort that everyone has given to try and keep us in operation in the face of these tremendous headwinds that we have been dealing with up to now. And now we're about to start another great experiment, which is, can we do a hybrid reopening of this campus and take care of managing the health and safety as best we can of the students and faculty and staff that will be coming here next week. So all of this has been a tremendous lift. And of course, FP&M has been in the middle of almost every part of it. So I'm very grateful to be back here and be part of it with you. You know, the reality of all this has meant that we're worried about our families, we're worried about our communities, we're worried about our nation. And together, we're really trying to find a path where we can come out of this in a much better place. And I realize that this has really put people under a great deal of stress and anxiety caused by all this change and uncertainty. And that's the reality of where we are. And it means that we really have to work together and really spend a lot of time in communication so that people understand what we're trying to do and what we're not trying to do. And so that kind of communication and then the flexibility that you all have to have, we all have to have together, is really going to be the secret ingredient of pulling through all this. So over the last couple of weeks, Chancellor Blank has hosted a couple of virtual town halls. They've been taped and they're available for you to watch. There's also been obviously a tremendous amount of information put together on the Smart Restart website, and we've obviously contributed to significant portions of that as well. So there are some additional resources out there for you to see the direction our leaders have put us in and why we're taking that on and how we're trying to make it work. So today my focus is really not to talk about COVID-19, but to give you a quick update of our operations and financial outlook as we look forward into the fall. And I'm going to be joined by Chris Strang, who started with us 1 week before I came back this January. So he is in some ways technically my senior. And he will talk about from a health standpoint, the COVID myths and truths and things that we have learned about COVID since it really exploded on the scene last spring. Then we're going to have Dar Ward, who's the chair of our Engagement, Inclusion, and Diversity team, and she's going to give us an update of the results of our 2019 EID survey. And then finally, we're going to celebrate the recipients of our annual recognition awards that was a direct recommendation out of a previous EID action committee. So it is likely you're going to have questions even after this town hall. And frankly, in the next hour, we're going to be doing a lot of talking. But the talking we're doing is really focused around questions that we have heard from our staff and from people in the campus community. So we're trying to address many of those without having a traditional question and answer format. One of the things we are exploring is doing another town hall subsequently in the fall, where we do open it up for more active and interaction with questions and answers, and we'll be getting back to you on that. So I've taken great pride in being part of this community. I actually started work for the university in March of 1989 and have been in multiple roles here along the way. So it is kind of a great honor, even in this crazy time, to be asked back and to work with all of you again. So I'm going to move forward, and I know we'll do that together as well. So Alicia has given me 3 parts to do, and so that's part 1, the introduction. Now I'm going to give you a quick update on our operational finance, where we are right now. Obviously, in the last couple of years, campus leadership has made some significant investments in FP&M, and they've helped us begin addressing better our maintenance issues and physical plant, our ability to design and construct new projects, our ability to manage space, our ability to have a more effective transportation system, and investments in our backup staff and HR and in budget, and then of course environmental health that Chris runs as well. So we've had some significant investments, and we are in a position, once we get out of this really unprecedented time, to move into a much stronger place as a result of those investments. And I'm sure everyone is looking forward to pulling out of this and taking advantage of them in more normal times. So I know that we've also had some significant financial impacts on campus. As we speak, we know in the last 6 months or so, we've lost an estimated of about $150 million. Now, we are looking to see what will happen in the fall, because that's even more critical. What will our enrollments be? How will we do on continuing our research? What will happen with state government? Will their budget support decline further, and when might it do that, and how much? So there's a lot of unknowns, and there's some scenario planning going on. So today, I don't have any answers on what will happen to our budget and what will happen to our staffing. But I do know a couple of things. One is, from a timing standpoint, probably in October, we'll have an assessment of how the fall semester is doing for the campus financially. Some good news is that research has really resurged and gone back into largely full operation. We started that back in June, and by September, we should have our full research activities going again. That's something that will help us, and it will also keep a key mission of the campus going forward. Enrollment has been surprisingly good. The freshman class is smaller than we had in the past. That's not surprising, but we still have over 6,500 freshmen coming on campus, and most of the sophomores, juniors, seniors, and grad students have returned. And of course, they're out living in the community. So I would say by October, we'll have an assessment of where our financial situation is and what kind of targets we will need to reach in FP&M. And my guess is that those targets will initially have a deadline of implementation in January. So I don't expect any sudden changes during the fall semester. That will be more of a planning time, and that the actual impacts will come at the earliest probably in January. The other point that will be on the schedule is when the state passes their budget. That's next summer, usually by July 1st. And that will give us another data point of what we need to do to respond to state investments in the university system. But I also know from having been through this a number of times that when we look at how we have to reduce our budget, we'll look at everything before we look at people. Our main resource is people. And so off we go in figuring out all the things we can contract and try and save the staff that we have built up and that have most recently been invested in by campus. That doesn't mean I can project what the results will be, but I know the priorities are always going to be to do everything we can and save our staff as the last resort. And that's been the case every time we've had to pull and tighten our belts over the last 30 years that I've been around the university. So I want you to know that, and that that's generally our protocol. In addition, from that timing and with that, I want to do a quick introduction about the Engagement, Inclusion, and Diversity Survey. Dar Ward, who's the chair of that, co-chair of that committee, will be going through that with you. But it seems to be an even more important time because of the turmoil of our country, our state, and our community, that we pay attention to what our employees are facing and help them through engagement and inclusion and work on our diversity so that we reflect the America that is really out there. And frankly, as you look across the campus, FP&M is one of the most diverse areas. So we are there, we are living that day to day already. And I'm proud of that. And we need to do better than we have. And I think we have been improving, but that doesn't mean we don't have room to keep moving forward and getting better. So when you look at the results of this survey, some of the results in certain topics are headed in a direction that we would like to not see. Now, we don't know if that's the result of changes in the last couple of years with major staff changes and other budget and supervisory changes, or is it because the survey changed in format? But the key is that we're going to think deeply and evaluate this very carefully in order to set another response that will help us continue our investment, engagement, inclusion with all of you, both on the call today and the people who are not, that still work for us. We need to reach out and understand that. So while we'll continue to take these steps to improve our environment, it's clear that this process takes time. We've started this now, this is the third EID survey, and every time we have learned something and we have made investments and improvements to try and respond to what we hear from all of you. So it is critical that we keep that dialogue going. It's just not for show, it is critical. And it is something that is important to all of us as leaders, and it's important to all of us, all of you who are on the front lines doing this every day. We need to be connected. So I'm committed to making time for that kind of work, and I hope you are as well. So now I'm going to hand it over to Dar, who is, as co-chair of the EID, will be sharing some of the survey results with you, and then we'll get a chance to watch a video celebrating the great work of some amazing folks who are this year's recipients. So Dar, I'm turning it over to you.
Thanks, Alan. So the EID survey is in part administered with the help of the EID committee at FP&M. I did want to just call out that each department within FP&M does have a representative on the Engagement, Inclusion, Diversity, or EID committee at FP&M, and so you should feel that those people are your representatives on these issues and that you can bring issues to them so that they can bring them to leadership and that we can address those issues as we move forward. As Alan said, we have been doing these surveys since 2012, every 2 years. Just about a month ago, we did send out preliminary results of the survey to all employees in FP&M and also summarize all of those results for the leadership team. I did want to make sure that if there were managers or supervisors that feel like they didn't get the data that they needed about the people that they oversee, that they can certainly request that data from me. We are going to be seeing additional data analysis coming up in the months to come. The Vice Chancellor of Finance and Administration is going to be hiring a consultant to analyze the data and hopefully provide some direction at that point. And the committee in FP&M is certainly going to be looking towards those results as we develop new plans to move forward. We do want to develop new plans for programs and changes that might happen in FP&M, but we're certainly cognizant that this is the survey results are, a point in time, and it was a point in time before the current things we're seeing with COVID and social justice issues that are coming to the front. And so we want to use the data, be mindful of it, but also not ignore reality, ignore where we're at and the changes that have been happening. So we will be taking all of those things into consideration. So I just have a couple of highlights of FP&M level data, very high level. What I'm going to present here is the highest top 5 positive responses for the 2020 survey. They split up the results into positive, neutral, and negative responses to each question. So these are the 5 that we sort of did the best in this time around. Feeling safe, knowing what's expected from you in your job, meaningful work, that your unit accomplishes its mission, and that people are proud to work for the university. So all of those, over 80%, those are great results to see that, people have a lot of pride in the work that they do. And I know that everyone in FP&M is, we're action people, we want to get stuff done. And so it's good to see that positive. On the flip side, on the lowest end of the positive responses, so you can see you're like 54% positive response, which is, lower than we'd like to see in the following things: satisfaction with the managers above your supervisor, feelings of exclusion. That's actually a new question this year on the survey. So this would say that 53% have not had feelings of exclusion, which means far too many people are feeling that way. Also, feeling that career opportunities fit career goals, that leaders above your immediate supervisor will act on this survey, and then satisfaction with compensation is a little bit lower than we'd like to see. So those are results this time around. Traditionally, we have talked a lot about comparisons year to year with the survey, and partially the survey is meant to sort of guide us and see, where, how are we progressing in these issues? Are we getting quote unquote better or worse? Unfortunately, this time around, there are some challenges with comparing the 2018 data to 2020. A couple of things are going on. One is that this is the first year that we've done the survey predominantly electronically. That actually introduces a kind of survey bias in who might respond and who might not respond. And what that tells us is that we could be looking at different groups, and so their responses are not as comparable as they would be if the survey method had stayed consistent. Also, as Alan mentioned, there were a lot of changes in FP&M and reorganization. We had the sustainability unit was created. And so where people sit in the organization is very different, and that makes it hard to compare the data year to year. There were also lots of changes in staffing, leadership. David Darling left, and so in 2018, people might have been responding about a set of individuals who might not even be here anymore. And then finally, we did add some questions in 2020 or modified them. That's a good thing because it was in response to people saying they didn't feel like the survey questions were necessarily as good as they could be. And what we did is we went out and said, what is the state of the practice? What is the best way to be asking these type of questions? We looked at all kinds of national surveys to try to make sure we were doing this in the right way. And what that also does is it introduces the possibility of being able to compare to national response rates too, so that we can see, well, if we're doing poorly in something, on the face of it, is it also the case that that's a national trend? And so it's maybe not necessarily about our organization, it's about a greater societal issue. And so that will be helpful in the future. So just a couple of reasons why it's hard to make data comparisons. I am going to show you some data comparisons because I know people want to see that. So again, looking at so this is the positive change. So between the last time we took the survey and this time, what was the change in the positive response rate? And so these 4 questions are the ones that we did have an improvement on. Unfortunately, that means that the change from those 2 years was negative in all the other questions, and that's a little bit what Alan was talking about, that we might be, concerned. If that's a real trend, we need to really stand up and take notice of that. But in these 4, we did see better results and improvement. The first one, the biggest improvement was people's satisfaction with compensation. Now that's interesting because it's one of the lowest things that people have satisfaction in. So what that tells us is we're not all the way there yet, but we are making improvements if we can believe this trend information. And then a little bit of improvement in respect and value among coworkers, opportunities to improve skills, and then supervisors supporting well-being. On the opposite side, the bottom of the scale, where we've seen the sort of the most backtracking if this data is actually accurate, is in these 5 is at the bottom of the scale, making sure that everyone on campus hears about important information, knowing what is expected in your job. And then the last 3 are, demographic issues of, are we a welcoming place for employees of color, people of all sexual orientations, and all genders? And so that really gets at the diversity and inclusion issues that our group is really trying to work on. So at a very high level, we have made improvements in a few things, but this is kind of the list, first blush, before we see enhanced data, of what we might want to be looking at a little more closely. We are seeing a little bit of improvement in compensation, and then also if you compare our data to national standards, our employee recognition feelings about that have gotten a little bit above the national average. Some areas where we might have some concern: satisfaction with supervisors, respect from our supervisors, feelings of exclusion, matching career opportunities to goals, making sure people get information, people knowing their job expectations, and then training opportunities. We do come out a little below the national average on that. The ones that are of a heightened concern, I think, based on the preliminary data, is making sure that we're a welcoming environment for all genders, sexual orientations, people of color, and then this making sure that we have a spirit of cooperation and teamwork in our units. So those are the things that multiple data comparisons are sort of pointing to. Maybe we're not headed in the direction that we'd like to be headed in. I do want to highlight that, we're going to review the data and work on some plans, but all of these issues are not something that one person, it's not just Alan or just your supervisor or the FP&M committee or the VCFA. No one person has control over these changes. And so we're talking about really an environment that we're trying to create, and we all create that. So I hope that you'll all be working towards improving these issues in your units, even as you look towards leadership to provide policies that make improvements. Certainly, as I said, don't hesitate to contact your representative on the committee. If you have concerns about these issues, you can email me directly, or if you want to see more data. I did want to say that it might seem like gloom and doom, but I think it's positive that we do actually care about these issues and want to look at it and not look away from problems that might exist. What you might not know is that the FP&M EID committee has a subcommittee that works on recognition. They have really been outstanding and have done fantastic work. And we've seen some improvements in the survey results of how people feel about recognition, and we're doing better than the national average. And so I really want to call out to those people who are on that subcommittee, Donovan and others, Karen, everyone who works with that committee. Thank you so much for your work on that. And just to highlight that, we want to take an opportunity to show you some of the work that those groups have done and to have them, highlight the outstanding achievements by our FP&M staff for this year. And so we're going to move to that next.
Welcome to our awards recognition ceremony. We're doing it virtually this year because of the COVID crisis, so we can't have a group meeting and a party that we've always had in the past. But this has been an unprecedented year in many ways, but it doesn't mean that we don't appreciate all that you do and want to recognize those who have really gone beyond what is expected. Every day, 60,000 people come on campus to do the research, to do the instructions, to live, to work, to play. All of those activities take place because you are helping set up the buildings, you're setting up the grounds, you're parking the cars, you're picking up the trash, you're delivering the mail. And without you and all the things that you do, none of those very visible activities could take place. So we have 6 award recipients this year. Let's find out who they are. To start, bringing in Donovan to introduce his group for the first award.
The Employee Recognition Award for Teamwork is given to the employees who work together to achieve a common goal. Please give it up for the third shift custodial project team 344. Juan Triana, Benito Montefiore Carbello, Hector Recoba, Juana Portugal, and Todd Yarrick. Your collective 25 years of third shift work experience is very important to the UW-Madison. You've grown together as a unit, and your commitment to one another, the university, and the occupation of custodial members is commendable. Your commitment to the values of teamwork directly benefit your teammates, the buildings, the physical plant, and the reputation of facilities planning and management. Further, as members of Project Team 344, you are engaged in learning additional skills to carry out additional duties as assigned. To quote their nominator and supervisor, Sandy Boney, I'm grateful for their dedication, their hard work, their perseverance to demonstrate a commitment to the core values, to be able to overcome extreme difficulties with a lack of staffing, and most of all, they display a high degree of honesty, loyalty, and integrity. Congratulations, Project Crew 344, for your dedication and to a job well done.
Thanks to Crew 344 for the Teamwork Award. Here's all your awards. We really appreciate your work. Thanks to Donovan for introducing you. And now we're on to Dave for the next award.
This year's recipient of the 2020 Creative Solutions Award is Kirsten Fosdal-Selchow. Kirsten is an accredited professional in the WELL building standard that focuses on the mental and emotional health of building occupants and users. Furthermore, Kirsten thinks that improving the health and quality of life and the environment of UW-Madison campus occupants and visitors is a reflection of the Wisconsin idea. And as a native, Kirsten thinks that UW is a great university and she's happy to be a part of making it so.
Congratulations, Kirsten, for your creative solution. We really appreciate your work. And thank you, Dave, for introducing her. Now on to Johnny for the next award.
Scott Powen is responsible for overseeing the daily custodial operations, ensuring these buildings are kept to established custodial standards. He has remained dedicated to the university and the physical plant for 15 years, conducting crew and safety meetings and a host of other administrative duties. To quote his nominator, Karen Perillo, Scott Powen has gone above and beyond by joining the class on a regular basis and actively helping with the classroom activities. He embraces the diversity of the people that he works with, and his participation makes employees feel engaged and supported. We are grateful to Scott for his time, energy, and expertise. Thank you, Karen, for taking the time to recognize Scott. Congratulations to my fellow supervisor with earning this award.
Thanks, Scott, for going above and beyond. Going above and beyond is really appreciated. Thanks, Johnny, for that introduction. And now let's bring in Karen for the next award.
Sue is a customer service supervisor in transportation services. Sue's goal is to know all aspects of campus parking and transportation in order to answer any question her group may receive. Her experience, expertise, and institutional memory serve as the foundation for the exceptional customer service she strives to provide to those seeking assistance. Sue enjoys interacting with customers and assisting someone who may be frustrated or struggling to find information. She wants customers to know that someone is listening and is willing to help them. She is a creative problem solver and will do everything in her power to solve a problem, even if it creates extra effort on her part.
Thanks, Sue, for your excellent customer service. And I know how good you are because I've had to go pay parking tickets on the desk when you received my money. And you did it so politely. I really appreciate that. And thanks for that introduction, Karen. And now we move on to the next award, presented by Nancy.
Mingor is a custodian with Crew 338. He has worked for UW-Madison for nearly 4 years and is a member of a project crew that works in the area of the engineering campus, doing floor care, changing light bulbs, and shoveling snow. The nomination about Mingor said his willingness to accept additional tasks or those not so desirable at a moment's notice has been admirable and appreciated. He is one of the most reliable staff members we have ever worked with, not missing a scheduled shift since he was hired. During the start of the COVID pandemic, when students were sent home, an urgent request came for custodial to send staff to sanitize dorm rooms, and Mingor was one of the first to volunteer. Mingor said, "My crew members are very helpful, supportive, friendly, and cooperative, and from our supervisor to human resources, everyone has been very supportive and helpful in learning my job. Thank you, UW, and thank you to my supervisor." Way to go, Mingor.
There are many unsung individuals that work for us, but this year's recipient is Minger on the third shift custodial staff. We really appreciate the work he does, mostly alone in the middle of the night, taking care of our buildings. Thanks for that introduction, Nancy. And now for the next award, we bring in John.
It is my honor and privilege to present the AVC Excellence Award to Stephen Skinner. Steve works in grounds as a gardener, usually on the northeast side of campus. Stephen was nominated by William Mann, the director of the UW-Madison Conference Centers, and to quote his nomination, Mr. Skinner embodies the professionalism and effort that exemplifies our great institution. Congratulations to Stephen Skinner as the recipient of this year's ABC Excellence Award.
Steve, it's great to acknowledge this award tonight. As the interim associate vice chancellor who gets his name on this award, really congratulations. The grounds crew appreciates all you do to keep our beautiful campus in great shape. In the last few years, we're trying to build a culture of recognition here at Facilities Planning and Management for all of our employees, for all the work you do. So tonight, here is the honor roll, and congratulations to all of our award recipients and all the staff that work so hard for us.
honor for me to be here this year as an interim Associate Vice Chancellor and to get to know all of you again after many years of being away. So it's a privilege to be part of this team, and I really appreciate all the work you do. This has been an amazingly unprecedented year, preparing for the COVID reopening of campus this fall. You've all been heroic in your efforts, and we appreciate everything you do. So stay safe and take care.
Congratulations to the award recipients. So now I'd like to introduce Chris. Sorry about the handoff there, a little clumsy. Chris Strang has been with us since the early January when he came here from a long career in industry. He's got great credentials and not only an experience, but not only that, he has been a tremendous immediate impact on all of the work we have done relating to the COVID crisis. He's immediately became part of the EOC team, the entire campus health and safety culture, and is really a leader in helping sort all these things out. In addition to that, he is a calm person with a good sense of humor, which means he's perfect for what we need right now. So Chris, welcome to FP&M. Since we've been virtual most of your career, it's a great opportunity for more people to meet you even in this virtual format. So I'll give this to you so you can talk a little bit about things we have learned about COVID since it's burst on the scene last spring, and some surprising myths that have cropped up over time that we can poke and dispel right now. So Chris, hand it off to you.
Thank you, Alan. I appreciate the introduction. Good morning, folks. Nice to meet you all virtually, at least. As Alan mentioned, I started my role in January, and I was only in the role a few weeks when it completely changed focus, and so it required me to really learn a great deal about the campus and campus community in a very short period of time. So fortunately for me, got a very strong and great, very supportive EHS staff that helped me do that, as well as colleagues from FP&M and across the campus. But one of the things that I really noticed, and I've commented on multiple times, is just the depth and breadth of resources that we have across campus. So we weren't having to do this on our own. We were able to reach out to folks all over the campus to help us with various aspects of putting these protocols together. We also have partners off campus with Dane County Public Health, with the University Hospital, with the State Lab of Hygiene. So there's resources that we've been able to draw on as we work to basically get ourselves ready to return to campus and maintain campus operations. So one of the things that I think some of you folks already know is that we have a very critical role. We've maintained the campus operations really throughout the whole pandemic. We've had several step changes as we returned research to campus and now as we return students to campus. And so what I'd like to do is share with you some of the health and safety protocols that we've developed to be able to manage that transition from kind of a core team to where we are now. So this is a hierarchy of controls, and if you're not familiar with this is a tool that we use to try to eliminate or reduce risk associated with any particular hazard. In this case, it's for the COVID-19 pandemic. And so if you can click, I'm not sure if there's any more buttons on there, but if not, oops, I'm sorry, if you can just go backwards then. Oops, thank you. What we've also used this for is this actually represents pretty closely what we've done for the various stages of return to campus. And so back in March, when we had almost no one on campus, with the exception of, again, most of the folks on this call, physical distancing was our primary control, and we were able to manage that fairly well with the limited folks on site. As more people returned to campus, we had to change some of the protocols to try to reduce the density in various spaces, and we've been able to do that effectively. But we also added the requirement to wear a face cover, again, adding a layer of protection for folks as they're on campus performing their daily tasks. As we now start to bring the students back on, we've added several more layers, and I'll share those with you over the next couple slides. And so a lot of our focus has been on prevention, keeping the infection off campus. And so I've broken them into 3 areas for you: the people, facilities, and general. And under the people, you can see that some of the key things that we've had in place all along were physical distancing and the hygiene practices, but we also then added the campus requirement to wear the face covers. On the facility side of it, one of the key pieces that we've got are cleaning and disinfection protocols, and I'm going to come back to that in just a second. We've also put in hand sanitizer stations to be able to promote the hygiene practices. And lastly, under the general, what we've done is we've developed a lot of guidance documents as a team for within our organization, as well as to share across campus, and we put together some training for people as they return to campus. So the second half of what we've been focusing on is for case management. So if we were to have a positive case on campus, we ought to be able to identify that and respond quickly. And these are some of the elements that we put in place to be able to do that. And a critical piece with that is the testing program and contact tracing. We relied previously on county resources for that, but we felt that in order to continue our operations, it was important to bring that in-house. That shortens up the response time significantly. So those are 2 key pieces that we put in place as the density of folks on campus increases. We've also now put on campus the testing facilities, so people no longer have to leave campus to get a test. We're standing up several facilities. We suggest that you make an appointment through health services so that you don't have to wait when you get the test, but you can walk up to any of these facilities and get a test, and they're free. And the last piece, what we've done is, as I've mentioned, we've got a great number of resources across campus that we've been able to draw on, but we also monitor all the external agency guidance and trends to make sure that all of the procedures and protocols that we have in place are current and are as most effective as we can have. So we can go to the next slide. So I'd like to highlight one of the key pieces of our overall process, and that's our campus cleaning process. And this very clearly shows how we've layered different approaches to be able to manage that collectively. And if we could click once more, I want to highlight several things for you folks. And the first and most important that I'd like to highlight is, if you can see, the core of our overall cleaning strategy is the daily cleaning, and that's performed by our custodial staff, many of whom are on this call currently. And we'd like to collectively say thank you for all that you do. And hopefully you can see here what you do really truly adds to our overall campus process to maintain safe operations. So again, we greatly appreciate your support. We also have offices and labs being cleaned by the occupants, classrooms being cleaned by the students, and then we have a smaller crew doing the high traffic areas. And then should we have an incident on campus, we evaluate and manage those as needed. What you can see with this overall process, what's more on the slide, it takes all of us to make this happen. So it's a shared responsibility, maybe a little different in the past, but we have, again, the building occupants, we have students, and we have FP&M all supporting this process. So this is an example of kind of the layers that you see beneath the surface from one of our elements for the safe return to campus. So to change gears a little bit, as Alan mentioned, there's a lot of misinformation out there, and the internet does a particularly good job of spreading that. And so we wanted to highlight some of the ones that you may have heard and give you what the true facts are behind that. So most recently, there's been a lot of discussion relative to oleandrin as being a miracle cure. That is made from the oleander plant. There is no information that supports that claim. It's not been tested, and it's also very toxic, so that is absolutely false. This is one that many of you have heard on the news, being touted as an effective treatment and/or prevention for COVID-19. Unfortunately, the studies do not support this, and there are actually some underlying serious cardiac issues that are associated with this drug. So this is also false. Hot peppers, that's one that's out there on the internet, but there's no truth to that rumor either. There's also garlic is being touted as being able to prevent COVID-19. Again, while it may certainly help with physical distancing, it does not prevent COVID-19, and so this is also false. Nor can a hot bath prevent COVID-19. This is another false statement. So there's also several myths around the transmission of COVID-19, and I think it's important to understand that where these are as well. So in spite of what you may read, mosquitoes and houseflies cannot transmit COVID-19. 5G networks, and I'm not sure where this came from, but this is out there on the internet as well, they absolutely cannot contribute to the spread of COVID-19. Cold weather has been touted as possibly preventing the spread of COVID-19. That is unfortunately for us false. Conversely, warm weather has also been indicated as being able to prevent the spread of COVID-19. This is also false. And one of the things that I've read most recently is that the prolonged wearing of a face cover can cause carbon dioxide intoxication or oxygen deficiency. Although they can become uncomfortable after wearing for periods of time, this is also false. And to build on that a little bit further, this is actually one of the most important things that we can do to prevent the spread of COVID-19, protecting ourselves and each other. So unfortunately, there are still no drugs that can prevent or cure COVID-19. And the best way to protect yourself and others is still to follow the public health guidance. Avoid large gatherings. Wear your face cover when indoors or outdoors when physical distancing is not possible. Self-monitor for COVID-19 symptoms and seek medical attention if you feel that you are ill. And if you do feel that you're ill, please do not come to work and stay home. Wash your hands often. Avoid rubbing your eyes or touching your face. And lastly, this is a very challenging and stressful time for all of us. I think it's particularly important now that we look out for each other, and I think together we can get through this. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Chris. This is a truly critical moment for the campus, and there is no one silver bullet here to deal with how we reopen in the face of both COVID and the economic and social justice issues that we have. The real secret here to me is the shared responsibility that we all have. Staff, faculty, students, especially students, not surprisingly, we have to act in ways that prevent the spread of the disease, and then we have to take advantage of the things that we have to quickly isolate whenever we find someone who is infected and either quarantine or isolate them so that they don't spread it further. We started a dashboard just yesterday, and about 1% of the tests that we have put out initially came in positive. This is what we expected. That's what's out in the general public, and in the fact we'll find even more probably in the next 2 weeks as we test all the freshmen coming into the dorms, and as students, faculty, and staff start using our on-site testing sites. We'll probably be testing at least 6,000 people a week starting in the next week or so. And that means we're going to have more positives. So we're kind of watching closely what the percentage of positives are and where they are. If we see 20, 30 positives spread out and that we can quickly contact trace and isolate those cases in a consistent manner, we believe we can stay open and manage this. If we get a much larger level and there isn't a number set up, that if we hit that number, that's what we will use to determine whether we go away from face-to-face classes or not. It's going to be, there's multiple dimensions to sort that out. It's where the cases are there clusters happening? Can we get after and control the site or the people in that cluster? So it's really fine-tuned reaction to what we're going to find, but we are going to have positive cases. There's no question about it. The question is, how far do we go and what the situation of where those positive cases are and what we can do about them will determine whether we can keep going. Clearly, the Chancellor and the whole executive team and President Thompson and the folks at the Board of Regents and System all are determined to try and safely reopen the campuses across the state of Wisconsin, including here in Madison. And this hybrid teaching model is one element of that, to try and include that face-to-face teacher, instructor, student interaction as part of the overall education that happens here on campus. That doesn't mean that if at some point we feel like we can't control the spread of virus, that we won't pull back from the operations that we start out with September 2nd. And how much we pull back is also flexible. We may just have to pull back on face-to-face classes, but leave research in place and maybe leave specialty instruction areas like glass blowing, dance, art in practice with physical distancing. So there's a wide variety of reactions that we have to take as well. And once again, the leaders will be monitoring these situations and looking at the specific circumstances that we have, and then we'll craft a response and communicate it with everyone on exactly what we're going to do and why. So you'll hear as soon as we know if there are any changes in plans. So we have multiple scenarios that we can look at to adapt to those circumstances. So the next question is, well, if we pull back on our operations, many of you have asked, well, what does that mean for our work? Are we going to be furloughed again? Are we going to go back to half-time? Will we have to look at other kinds of staffing changes? And the answer we have to that is it's going to depend on how the operations change. If we just pull back on face-to-face classes, it will diminish our workload to a certain extent, but we will still be supporting research, all those specialty classes, a lot of administrative functions along the way. So it will be very different than what we did in March, where we basically crash landed all the operations on campus, except for very few research activities. Everything stopped. I don't think anyone thinks that that will be what we do if we run into a large amount of infections in the coming weeks or months. It will be more of a nuanced change in operations. So that means it's going to be a different change for you and our staff. And we're going to be looking at how we can, once again, protect the people who are in place and make sure we have a way for you to keep your families and your livelihood in place as best we can. That is our highest priority. It will remain our highest priority. But there is a lot of uncertainty, and I appreciate the fact that as you go to work day by day, you're worried that what might happen and what will affect your job is really out of your control. And frankly, to a certain extent, because this is a communal effort and that we're all sharing in figuring this thing out, that the interdependency we have right now for everyone to participate responsibly in order to stay open is critical. So let's do our part. Let's make sure we're wearing our mask. Let's make sure we're physically distancing. Let's make sure we're supplying the disinfectant wipes to the classrooms. Let's make sure we are running the buses in a safe manner with only 20 people on the bus. Let's make sure that we have access to flex parking so people can get on and off campus in an easier way. Let's make sure that we're evaluating the safety protocols of how we move around campus. Let's make sure we are not going into crowded places. Let's make sure we keep moving. So all of those things are the layered approach to risk management that if we all uniformly try and hang in together and pull that off, we may be able to get to Thanksgiving and have this hybrid operation be successful. We are also prepared that if it looks like we are not in control the way we want to be, that we will pull back in some manner. What that manner is will be determined by what the infection rate is and where it is. So I can't really give you a scenario. I can only give you the priorities that will be evaluated along the way and encourage everyone to take our part to make sure our part of this community is done responsibly. And then we will have done all we can do to help this whole enterprise keep moving forward. So that seems to be the biggest question. Right now, we're in a situation where we've got hundreds of people telecommuting from home. We've got nearly 1,000 people who have been essential workers and have basically never left, even in March, when we brought the whole campus to a halt. We've had to furlough people. We've had to require people take unemployment compensation in order to help our budget and also try and keep your livelihood in place. So we're going to continue to do all the things we can do to support you in this unprecedented time. And I can't give you the answers right now, but I can give you what our priorities are. And you are still our priority. And we'll do everything we can within the resources we have and within the realities that we have of this COVID to keep you forefront in our minds as we sort this out. So I'm going to end on that. I do want to say that we will continue to have frequent communication, that for all of us, flexibility and compassion will be critical as we move forward. Because we're in this unprecedented time, because we have so many uncertainties that we're dealing with. So let's look out for each other. Let's make sure we're operating in as low risk way as possible. And I do want to reiterate that I have such extraordinary gratitude to all of you on the call and the people not on the call that have made it all possible for us to get this far and have a chance to have another semester on campus. No one could have done it without all of your contributions. As I mentioned in the video, it really is heroic to take this on and make this accomplishment part of what we do. So thank you, thank you, thank you. It's been an honor to work with you this year. Stay safe.
All right, thanks so much, Alan. Really appreciate those words. And I'm just going to wrap up a little bit by acknowledging that I'm sure many of you still have questions, and we want to hear from you. We do have a method to do that. The FP&M employee question form is on Inside FP&M, and really appreciate after this meeting even using that link to submit questions. We'll really try to respond to those in real time and collect the flavor of those to inform future communications. A recording of the meeting will be posted in the newsletter, and a translated version is coming soon. We're working on that. But please look forward to more sessions in the coming months. This has been the first time trying this virtual format, but really look forward to, we had about 320 people participate. Again, nice to have everyone virtually together at the same time, and looking forward to doing more of that in the coming months. But thank you very much. Thank you for joining, and be well.